What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. Today we've got a great episode planned for you all. We're kind of getting close to fantasy football season, and I know we've been doing our predictions for each division upcoming, but we decided to take a quick break from that to talk about 10 guys in this upcoming fantasy football season that we are all high on, or at least individually, we each have some guys that we're high on. I can't guarantee that we're all high on all 10 guys. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing all right. I missed such a layup to have something interesting to talk about at the top of the show because I didn't see Barbie or Oppenheimer. So I have no takes. I have nothing to say about either movie. I have no review. So it's up to you guys to carry the dialogue.
And Matt, you saw both of them, right?
No, I just saw Barbie.
Oh, okay. I saw Barbie and Oppenheimer. I liked Barbie.
I liked it pretty good. There were some things I didn't like. I thought a lot of the jokes didn't land, and there was a Chevy ad in the middle of it that I really didn't. And spoiler alert, I'm sorry. There is a part where it is like, it's pretty bad, dude. It's pretty rough.
I'm confused, and Matt, who or what age group is this movie for? Because I know it's a little meta.
It's not,
and I know that Greta
Gerwig playing a lot of
it.
sides. I can very much. Here's the thing. I don't think it's really like. Yeah, there's some stuff for everybody there. I don't think it's really for me. So I don't want to be too critical of it.
Right.
I guess would be my.
I don't really think
take
it's
on it.
I wouldn't say it's like for a kids movie. I wouldn't say it's like a kids movie though. If that's what, like, it's not Toy Story.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I just was always a little bit confused because I'm like, I don't know who this movie is made for. Because like Ryan Gosling has an 100% approval rating among men our age. And I was wondering how much of the hype of like my mutuals and like people I know in real life who are like around my age, was it like always, I was always a little bit unclear. It's like, are we hyping this up because we want to go see the guy from Drive in a Barbie movie and the Sigma male playing Ken? Or is it actually like kind of meta and for adults? And I've never really been quite clear on exactly if I should be interested in seeing this movie unironically.
It's kind of a mix, and that was sort of my. It was not solidly in one camp or the other.
Okay,
and I'd say it's definitely like not a kids movie, just like straight up. But there's a lot of stuff in there that just I don't know. It just didn't seem like it was for me personally. But I thought it was good. There's a lot of good stuff about it. There are a few really good jokes, and there's some good bits in there and whatnot. But I didn't play with Barbies when I was a kid, so I think a lot of it just doesn't resonate.
Yeah, it's got it's a weird premise, I think, that this movie about a very popular toy franchise is the one. I don't know. I need to see it. I don't have any takes on it.
Yeah. I thought it was good, though. And I saw Oppenheimer the same day. And
you went for it. Did you change clothes?
No, no, because we just kept the same outfits. Because we did Barbie at 2:00. Got done with that. Got some lunch, did a little bit of shopping. Then went and saw Oppenheimer at 7:15. So we got home at like 11. It was a long day, but Oppenheimer was really good. I'm not going to spoil it, obviously, for those that haven't seen it.
There's a big bomb and they drop it on Japan.
Twice.
Twice. Yeah.
Twice. The sound design I thought was really good. Yeah, if you haven't heard of that.
World War II, it was quite the event.
It's 3 hours long. Be prepared. I will say this. I think if you're doing the Barbieheimer thing, you should see assuming you didn't try and do it like opening weekend. I think the correct structure would be to do Oppenheimer first, then Barbie.
Yeah, there's just no way after a movie I'm like, let me see a movie that's twice as long as this one now.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Well, and also you have to pay more attention to Oppenheimer because there's like 3 storylines going on. And it's like for a long movie, it moves really quick. I thought it was really fast paced. So I don't know. I wish I had seen Oppenheimer first. I might go see it again with my grandpa, though. We'll see.
My advice, if you see both in the same day, is don't pay for the second ticket. As someone who used to work in a movie theater, there's just no way for us to know if you're going from one theater to the other. Maybe at more fancy movie theaters there are, but I feel like if you're going to do a double feature and you pay for both tickets, you're a bit of a sucker, especially now. I'm kidding. You can pay for both. Support the movie theater, support the cinema, but you probably could get away with it.
Maybe. I don't think I could have gotten away with it at the theater that I went to. Because it's giant, but you have to like go. Matt knows where I went to Easton. I don't think you could get away with that at Easton.
They're probably on high alert too. We never really had an event like this where people like specifically were coming out for the double feature. So they might have security guards posted up, I guess. But when I worked at the theater, I don't know. I didn't see anybody. I'm sure that there were a lot of people doing that, and I never noticed.
Fair enough. Fair. Well, if you guys want to get into this fantasy football conversation that we'll be having today, we have 10 players, like we said, that we're going to talk about as guys that's... I have some guys that I'm high on. I think each of us have 3, and then we have like 1 that I think we're all kind of in agreement on. And based on our rundown here, first up is Miles Sanders, who is actually my guy. And this take, I guess I should give Matt some credit for, because I gave him as my dark horse offensive player of the year candidate. And Matt was like, bro, you should just say you're high on him for fantasy. And yeah, he's right. I'm just like, well, I'll just do both. And if you haven't seen why I think he's a dark horse offensive player of the year candidate, this should suffice as coverage for that as well.
Basically, I haven't seen it. And I was in the car when you guys were arguing about this Miles Sanders offensive player of the year agenda. So I'm in the dark on your logic of being mega high on Miles Sanders.
Your logic is that he's going to get like 350 touches and they're going to use him like Derrick Henry. And it's like, I think he could get used a lot, but...
Hold on. Let Blaiden explain to me exactly...
Matt's not 100% off from that.
That's it.
Miles Sanders last year was on the field a lot. He was on the field like top 5 of any running back in the NFL last year. There were only, I think, 3 running backs that were on the field, like had more snaps than Miles Sanders.
So if I say there's nowhere to go but down, you would say...
I would say the difference is that all those other running backs that were on the field a lot, they got the ball a lot. Miles Sanders did not get the ball nearly as much as any of those guys because he had Jalen Hurts on the field. So even though he was the quote-unquote lead back in that Eagles offense, he was not getting as many touches as some of the other premier backs that were also on the field a bunch. And I think now he's going to a situation where they have a rookie quarterback. They still have a good offensive line, though obviously not as good as the Eagles. And they don't have a true wide receiver 1. So who else is there to lean on in this offense? You already know that he can be on the field a lot because the Eagles trusted him to do so. And now he's just in a position to get a bunch of touches. There's like no reason to not.
I think they're going to run a similar offense, though. They hired Reich from Philadelphia, who is obviously, Sirianni's mentor. And there's been this weird, I don't know if I want to, the first word that comes to mind is incest between the Colts and the Eagles coaching staffs, and that they're always like,
what are we talking about?
Trading people from like back and forth, which I can maybe get into later with my Jelani Woods takes. But it's those two systems I think are pretty similar. And now you're bringing Reich over to Carolina. And I think you're going to see a lot of RPOs.
Right.
And I think you're going to see a lot. And when there's RPOs,
you're not running.
You're not targeting the running back. Yeah.
That's
like you're just kind of a decoy. And I think that you're going to see, Miles Sanders on the field a lot again in Carolina, but I think that his role is going to be the same. I don't think it's going to be in like an under center. We're going to lean on him type of way, run him between the tackles 400 times this season. They signed him to a 4-year deal. They know that they can't give him 300 carries and have that 4-year deal age well. So I think that you could be good. I think that he could be around where he was last year, which was certainly a solid fantasy performance.
Well, that's the thing is he was top 10 last year. So if he's around that this year, do you think that's higher? Do you think that's worth better than the ADP right now of him being running back 19?
Yeah, that's where I agree with you. Is like they very much like Sanders. I don't think it's just coach talk. Like the way that they've been, they obviously went out and got him this contract, right. And Staley really likes him, and this is our guy. And the Panthers, for what it's worth, I mean, nobody's going to be on the field 100%, but for what it's worth, the Panthers guys outside of him do not move me a ton. And the run blocking line is good. And I think there's a serious drop off after Sanders. There's maybe a couple other guys outside of that, but he's definitely sort of the one of the last few guys in that tier. I like the value. I think he could have similar success to what he did on the Eagles, at least in terms of how much he's going to get the ball. I think his targets probably only can go up. Hurts running the ball a lot does definitely hurt that. And I think it makes sense, but I don't think that he's going to be like a top 5 fantasy back. I think he's pretty solid value there, but he's not one of my guys.
I agree. I don't think that it's a bad take to say, he might be, there's some guys above him who I would take him over. Especially Jahmyr Gibbs at running back 14. I'm looking at the Fantasy Pros thing. Like, I think I'd rather have Miles Sanders
we're all doing PPR here, right?
Yes, I believe that's where
we didn't disclose that beforehand. I just want to.
That seems to be like kind of the basic assumption when people are talking fantasy these days is PPR, even though I prefer half PPR, but that's neither here nor there. I think that he's a safe pick in fantasy. I think that he's going to do a good job. I think that it could be very similar to where it was last year. I think that that's kind of the offense that they would like to build, and every offense should want to build what the Eagles did last year. They were perfect. Like that's how you should do it, guys. Yeah. They didn't lose a single game when their starting quarterback was in until the Super Bowl, and even then they scored 35 points.
Right.
So if you've got the coach who might know how to make an offense that looks something like that, you should give it your best shot. So I don't think it'll be this under center power running game where they really lean on Sanders. I don't know if he's exactly that type of back, and I don't know if that's exactly the coaching staff that to do something like that. But I do like him to repeat what he did last year, even though you may look around at his surroundings and say the situation is not quite as strong with the offensive line. But
I don't know if he's going to repeat quite what he did last year. I just think he's like pretty solid value at 20, but he was behind, the best offensive line and he ran 11 touchdowns in. That's probably like the offensive line's worse, and he's probably not going to get that type of touchdown favorability.
Maybe not. There's no one really to vulture touchdowns away, though. Like, they're probably not going to. How many rushing touchdowns did Jalen Hurts have last year? Bryce Young, they're not going to plunge him in from the goal line, I would imagine.
I
get you could.
How many quarterbacks are you going to run?
Well, I would question how many touchdowns there will be to punch in. I think it's a concern is that the Panthers' offense might just not be that great. And Sanders is also a guy who had 9 touchdowns the first 3 years of his career before having 11 last season. I just think he's solid value there, but he's not one of my sleepers, I would say.
I guess that's fair. Well, Theo,
your guy is
up next. Your guy is up next, David Montgomery.
I love David Montgomery.
Please enlighten us. Is this the Jamaal Williams 2.0?
I think he totally could be. I think when you look at the Lions offense, everyone's so excited about Gibbs, but I think that Montgomery warrants plenty of hype as well. This is an offense with plenty to go around in terms of like touches for the running backs. They are near the top of the league in neutral run rate, right? They don't put a ton on Jared Goff's plate. They're very efficient, but it's not like they're handing the ball off a lot. They needed Montgomery on the field to pass block. Jamaal Williams was one of the most active running backs in pass blocking last year, and Montgomery's a decent blocker as well. Goff tends to get blitzed a lot because their offensive line is so good. You can't get pressure rushing for consistently. But the thing with Goff is he's bad when he moves off of his spot. So you really want to pressure him. So teams blitz him, and then you need guys on the field to stop that. Montgomery's a good check down option. He's a decent receiver out of the backfield as well. He's a more talented runner than Jamaal Williams. And really, like, I just think it's an offense that asks a lot of their running backs, and that's why they drafted one in the first round, and that's why they spent money on Montgomery, right? Like, they just know that it may not matter so much in other offenses, but in this one it does. And I think, like, Gibbs, I think, is getting a little bit overrated right now, and I think that Montgomery is a bit underrated. I think in terms of their fantasy production, it's going to be somewhere closer to in the middle. You got to remember at Alabama, Jahmyr Gibbs only got a small handful of runs between the tackles his entire time there. In his entire career in college, he only got over 20 carries like 2 or 3 times. He's skinny. He's kind of tall. He's very fast. You want him with the ball in space. But is he going to be someone that's going to be their like primary runner of the football? I could totally see Montgomery leading the team in carries behind a good offensive line and getting the work on the goal line and having it be kind of an enhanced version of Williams and Swift. And we all know Williams was great last year. I think Montgomery can post similar results.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree with that take at all. I think he's pretty good. I think the Lions' backfield is just interesting. I mean, Gibbs at 14 is projecting pretty serious. That's his ADP, his running back 14. Mm-hmm. You're basically saying that the Lions are not going to do what they did last year. They are not going to split carries big time, even though they brought in another back. And Montgomery won't vulture away touchdowns the way that Williams did to Swift. And I can see some of the logic there. It's like, well, you just spent the 12th overall pick on a running back. And, you know, I think he's more talented than Swift. I like him a little bit better as a back. But
And usually these running backs are better early in their careers. There's a lot of examples of really good rookie backs. I mean, even last year, how many were there? There was Algier, there was Hall, there was Pierce, there was Walker. You know, the rookie backs is not a bad investment. So when a guy gets taken 12th overall, I understand like his best season of his whole career could happen year one. You know, like it's not impossible. So I get the hype with Gibbs based on where he was selected. But I think with the Lions' whole draft, they didn't really. I don't think they drafted him and we're going to draft him this high because he's super. Exactly. We're going to give him. I just don't. I think they threw like value out the window and positional value, and they said he will fill a role for our team that we want to have filled, and so will David Montgomery. Like I don't think that they picked him in the same way that the Giants picked Saquon. I just think that's how the Lions operated their board this year. So like, yes, he went 12, but also there was like a run of players that the Lions might have liked to taken right before Gibbs. And I think he was just the top player on their board and they said, sure. I still think Montgomery's going to be heavily involved. And I think that he's a bit more of a talented runner than a lot of people give him credit for.
Yeah, I can get behind that, man. All I'm saying is that if you draft Gibbs really high and it turns into next season and the touchdowns are getting vultured away by Montgomery, you did it to yourself. I'm not saying it's a guarantee to happen. I don't really know, I guess. But if you walk yourself into that one and they do it to you again, like, dude, it's on you, right? It's like take Kyle Pitts again while you're at it.
Yeah.
Right. Which I will be doing. So I 100% understand.
And in the same sense, like Swift is, or not Swift, Gibbs is so good. Like Kyle, like those are two really good players. I can't blame you for being high on them, but I don't know. I think they could change, but those are the type of situations I just like to avoid if I can.
Right.
Yeah, it's something that the likelihood of it just seems like the hype has gotten so high. Like Gibbs to be that high, it just seems like people are assuming that he is going to be the main workhorse back, and Montgomery is just going to fade into the background. And I just think we've seen Ben Johnson operate, and we've seen these Lions operate, and we've seen that they want physicality, right? They want to run the football, right?
We saw
and Gibbs just did not take the football between the tackles. He didn't do it at Alabama that much. And he was really, really efficient. He was really, really good, like on checkdowns, and he's a great route runner, and he's a lot of good things. But for what the Lions want to do, it seems like the bread and butter is still Montgomery, and maybe Gibbs is split out wide as a slot receiver. Like, who knows? These first 7 weeks of the seasons without Jameson Williams, he might be their second most explosive guy. So I think both have like a path to success, but it's not just Gibbs. Like Montgomery does too. And right now, I don't really think the market reflects that. It seems like Gibbs is way higher than Montgomery. I think they both could end pretty similarly. So I like Montgomery a lot.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I think Williams finished way above Swift last year. Oh. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I believe so. I think Williams was like a RB1.
The guy who broke Barry Sanders' touchdown record versus the guy who is losing snaps to Justin Jackson.
Right, yeah.
I think you might be right that Williams was way ahead of Swift.
Well, Matt, you have the next guy here. Our first non-running back, Trevor Lawrence. And I think,
dude.
I already see where you're going to go with this.
I think this one is big time. I'm not really a fan of drafting the quarterbacks high. I think it's this is kind of unreal. I think it's so bogus that 2 QB is not the standard playing format when I think it makes so much more sense. But Lawrence finished as quarterback 8 last year, and he's getting drafted as quarterback 8 this year. This is a guy who had more interceptions than touchdowns as a rookie, and then in his sophomore season was 7th in MVP voting and is now adding Calvin Ridley. Is that not an exclusively upside pick from that position? The Jaguars' offense, their passing offense, was awesome and can probably only get better, man. I don't see any. When I look at some of the other QBs, like there's definitely ways that you can see the downside or that you have to spend like serious assets to go get with Lawrence. I think there's, he runs the ball at least a little bit. I think the passing offense is going to take a huge leap. I think that year 3 quarterbacks typically take a big jump themselves. I just think overall it's a very safe pick. You don't have to reach really high to go get him there. And it still gives you some hope that the quarterback position could be a big winner for you, as opposed to like waiting forever and then just banking on your quarterback being okay. Like maybe like with, like a Daniel Jones, who's quarterback 14, but probably is still a playable guy. Probably still a QB1 in 12-team leagues. You can go get a guy at 8, Lawrence, who's, significantly higher, but, you still don't have to spend like, a top 3 or 4 pick on him and then go grab him. I really like him.
Yeah, he's someone that you can run the option with. He's someone that's really tall, and if you get anywhere closer to the goal line, I think I'd rather just have him reach it over than anything else happen. There's a lot of quarterbacks in front of him where it's like, I'm not totally sure if he'll outperform them, but if you can get him at 8, there's no reason to take like Mahomes at 1. And I think it's like, if you center your draft around Lawrence, it just gives you other options earlier in the draft. And that's kind of how I feel about him, is like, I think that might be a better strategy than taking Mahomes in the second, because man, I think that he's a sneaky MVP pick for sure. He's not that sneaky, but he's definitely not in that tier 1. Like I said in the last episode, the AFC South episode, I don't want to call him perfect, but he is. he has everything you need to be in that QB2 conversation behind Mahomes. And he's got that ability to live in the margins and create plays out of structure. He's got a crazy arm. He never gets sacked. He scrambles. So, like, with this receiving core, could he have just a huge output? Could he outperform Burrow? Like, I think it's a pretty safe bet that he does. So I agree with you, Matt. I don't know if I were to stack him up, he probably would still be around 8. But if you can get him there, like 8 is pretty damn close to 1 for quarterbacks. So you might as well wait and get him and go with a different thing early.
I think 8 brings a lot of upside. I think there's a lot of room to go up. If you get Burrow at 4, there's just not the same ability for him to like really go and crush that, you know? That's nothing against Burrow. Or with Mahomes, you know, at 1, it's like there's just not a lot of room for him to be way better than that. I really don't like Mahomes at 1, to be completely honest with you. I'd have to be really deep into the second round before I'd start to think about that. That's another conversation, but it just feels like Mahomes is a lock to be very, 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 very good. But in points per game, he wasn't 1 last year. You know, it's like you could still get beat out, and you still have to take him as 1. I don't know.
No, I agree. I think that's something you let the least experienced person in your league do, is take Mahomes first. You know, like, not to be mean, but I just think that's something like any savvy fantasy player. I think that this is a tried and true tradition. Is I'll do a league with. Sorry if my parents are listening, and they'll take Mahomes first overall. So I just kind of feel like, Mahomes is something maybe you let someone else take really early. And I agree, Matt, like for Lawrence to even finish as QB9, that would surprise me, right? I think it would. So,
dude, it's like after Lawrence, you start to get to guys where it's like Watson. I could see the serious downside for Watson. Like, I could see it being bad. It's not a lock or anything.
Yeah, but he was bad last. He was bad last year when he got back.
Tua, like there's a really big injury risk there. Rodgers, like, yeah, man, I don't necessarily think that it's going to happen, but you could see the downside. Although, albeit you're waiting a lot longer once you get past Lawrence. Like, you can really let it simmer. And honestly, we'll talk about it later, but maybe I really like waiting a long time on quarterbacks this year. I think there's some strong players to do it with, but I don't know. I think there's some serious upside with Lawrence becoming a tier 1 quarterback and that offense being super awesome. They were already super awesome last year. So I think there's a lot of upside with him.
Yeah. I agree. I think that.
But I also agree with your latter point that I would probably wait until we're getting outside of pick 100 before I start taking a quarterback, just because, like, if that's around where Rodgers and Kirk Cousins are going, I mean, Kirk Cousins was pretty damn good last year. So I would be perfectly fine with them adding Addison. I'd be like, you know what? They have a serious number 2 at receiver. Hawkinson's a full season there. Like, I would be okay with taking Cousins there. So I don't know if I might just let Lawrence slide, honestly. But I see the vision in him potentially exceeding that QB8 spot.
Yeah. We'll get it. I know we have another guy on.
Yeah, we have another. All right. Well, next guy on the list here, another one of mine. I have another running back, Jamaal Williams, who we talked a little bit about earlier when we were talking about David Montgomery. I just want to, like, and I understand, like, 17 touchdowns is like an obscene amount, and he probably won't do that again. But Alvin Kamara's had 13 in the last 2 years combined. So it's like, I would not be shocked if there's a realm where Jamaal Williams is taking touchdowns away from Alvin Kamara deep in the red zone. Just, I don't know if the Saints are going to want to do that. And also, especially because, like, where's Alvin Kamara ranking right now in ADP? It's
probably about like 30.
Alvin Kamara's at 31, and Jamaal Williams is at 35. So I think Williams would be. I think Williams should be a little bit higher, and maybe Kamara could be a little bit higher.
Above Kamara?
Oh, I think so.
In that case,
dude,
what?
Oh,
I think that you are saying basically that the reason why Williams took so many touchdowns from Swift is because Williams was such like a great back, and Williams had a good season last year, and he is a good back. But I think that has far more to do with what the Lions were doing. I think Miller could get work there, Kamara could get work there, Williams could get work there. I'm not even sure how good their run game is going to be. I'm not sure how good the offense overall is going to be, although they have the potential to have a lot of explosive plays. I just don't see Williams as like a real plus back, and I don't think that he's in a plus situation. I think 35 is honestly pretty reasonable for him, and I might like some of the guys below him a lot better.
I would too, man. I think Williams is someone to fade pretty heavily if he's anywhere close to Kamara range. Do you know? So he had 262 rushing attempts last year. Do you know the next closest number in his career to 262?
It's not good. I know it's
over 100 less.
It's 153. Yeah.
He's going into this season with 915 career rushing attempts. All right. He is not in the prime of his career. All right. Being 28 with that much tread on your tires is like kind of a red flag for running backs. Do you think the Lions wanted to give him that many touches last year? No, they didn't want to.
They just didn't want to keep Swift on the field. You think they hate Swift that much?
Yeah, dude. Of course they do. They traded him.
I guess that's fair.
When he came back from injury, he wasn't even the second most. Like, he was getting touches behind Justin Jackson. Like I already said, like Swift was in their doghouse, and they had to lean on Jamaal Williams in a way that I don't think they wanted to lean on. And another thing, Jamaal Williams was a cultural icon in Detroit. He was the one breaking down the huddle. We all saw it on Hard Knocks. Like, they loved him. He had this huge season. They're a very like tight-knit group. They're a very, I think, they don't care about value for running backs. They obviously just brought in Gibbs for a first-round pick. They still let him walk. What does that say about Jamaal Williams?
Right. I guess that's fair. The one thing I will say though is like, I just, all this stuff about like, well, Swift was in the doghouse. Bro, Kamara hasn't played a full season over the past 2 years. He's had, again, 13 total touchdowns over the past 2 years. So I guess that's where I'm coming from more, is that like, I just don't know if Kamara's really going to be. Has there been
someone vulturing touchdowns away from Kamara?
No, I just think that's why they brought in Williams, to be like, well, if we aren't going to have Kamara, let's at least have someone there other than what they've been doing with the Taysom Hill power run bullshit. Like, bring in a legit like power runner that you have in that realm.
Yeah,
so that way you can leave your quarterback on the field in goal line situations, and you have like Derek Carr, and then you can just hand it off to Jamaal Williams, as opposed to you have to switch out your quarterback to run some power offense in the red zone.
But they like running it with Taysom Hill though? They do it because they want to, not because they have to.
I guess, but like,
right? They don't have to. No one has to do it. They gave him like a $60 million contract.
Okay, we all know that contract was fake.
Still, they aren't doing this because there's someone hurt. They're doing it because they legitimately love Taysom Hill, and Taysom Hill is someone who is very like adept at powering it in those situations.
He is good at it.
I think. Look, they need depth behind Kamara, and Kamara hasn't been the most efficient guy over the past couple of years. Like, I think it makes sense that they brought Jamaal Williams in, and Kamara's a very patient guy. Like, he will chop his feet behind the line of scrimmage and behind a run blocking line like the Saints, which hasn't been so good over the past couple of years. Kamara has been super, super inefficient. So I get bringing in someone like Jamaal Williams who can really plunge between the tackles, and maybe he does vulture all the touchdowns away like he did for Swift from Kamara. But I just think last year was such a fluke year for him, and I just think that
17 touchdowns is unreasonable to expect again.
And
obviously.
250 carries is like his entire career in Green Bay and Detroit. It's 150 max. Last year, I think their whole plan with Swift went awry. They gave him a ton of carries, and then after that, they were totally fine letting him go. I think like that's the peak, and I think the downhill could be pretty steep from there. Although I do think like maybe his situation with Kamara, because you kind of hope that Swift is Kamara and they kind of share similar strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
So maybe the same thing happens, but I just don't know if I'm ever banking on a season like that ever again from Jamaal Williams. And they just drafted a rookie, and I guess he's been on the physically unable to perform list for camp, but the season's still a long way away. But they drafted a rookie
Miller.
who has a lot less tread on his tires and probably could be a lot more explosive than Jamaal Williams. And I don't know, I'd rather take on a shot maybe on him really late than Jamaal Williams. I mean, Jamaal Williams isn't too far away from David Montgomery, and it's like I'd much rather have David Montgomery.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you see those 17 touchdowns in that role that Williams had, which probably just won't be replicated regardless. But I'd much rather bet on the Lions replicating that with Montgomery than the Saints replicating that with Williams.
Yes, because I'm on Fantasy Pros. I'm looking at Williams. He's the 96th overall player and running back 33. David Montgomery's running back 31. So it's like not too much of a difference between someone who replaced Jamaal Williams and Jamaal Williams. And yeah, I am not high on him. I'd be higher on the guy, honestly, right below him in Samaje Perine, to be completely honest. But that's someone maybe for later.
Perine's role, I guess, would just be to take some
is
load off of
next on the list? Because did I include Javonte?
You didn't include Javonte, but I'm surprised you didn't, because I like Javonte a lot too.
I like Javonte a ton, and I think
just not even as a fan, just as a runner. Oh my God, he's filthy, man.
Who's next? Who do I have? Because I might rather talk about Javonte.
You have Aiyuk.
Okay, I do want to talk about Aiyuk. Who do I have after Aiyuk? Never. Let me say a quick word about Javonte Williams really fast.
Okay.
Who have been the top overall running backs in the league these past couple years? Like the number one back. It's been Derrick Henry. It's been Jonathan Taylor. It's been Josh Jacobs. These guys, what is their prototype? And what offense do they run in? They get under center, right? And they are power backs. These aren't big receivers. I guess Josh Jacobs is to some extent. But Henry and Jonathan Taylor, like these guys are RB1s in under center power running offenses. That is still the formula for fantasy success. What is Denver going to be? They picked up Ben Powers from Baltimore. Yeah. They picked up Mike McGlinchey, who is only a run blocker, not a pass protector. Russ, they tried to let Russ cook for the past couple years. It's not working. Like he doesn't have it in him. What do you want Russ doing? He still has an arm. What I want Russ doing is play action, roll out, give guys time to get down the field, and bombs away. Like that's what Russ can still do at this point. And that's what they're going to lean into. You are going to see an under center power running game with play action passes in Denver. That is the exact formula with Sean Payton, a great play caller, that breeds RB1s overall. You're getting a super talented back in Javonte Williams, who, is he as good as Josh Jacobs is? Is he as good as Jonathan? Like Maybe. When we saw him his rookie year, he could be up there, dude. Yeah. And so a lot rides on the knee. A lot rides on it. He really messed it up. And who knows if he'll be ready right now. There's not much information out there. But if he is, I love that pick. Like, and if I was drafting right now, I'd swing for the fences because you can get him pretty late and he could be RB1. If he was totally healthy, I think I would say he could easily be RB1. So I really like Javonte Williams. I think it's go big or go home. I would totally draft him. And if he's not ready, Perine kind of fills that role. And I think Perine could be like following the same logic, but maybe fading the health of Williams. Like I like any back in this offense because I think that it's just the perfect storm for a monster running back season as opposed to a monster wide receiver season or
the only concern with Perine is like if Javonte is just healthy all year,
Right.
Bro, you just ride with Javonte because he is that good. He is so good. He just runs with so much anger. I've never
and he can receive as well. He's not a negative in that category. He can track the ball and catch it. And I remember his rookie year, he was like, I don't know if he caught all of his targets or something like that. He's not downfield running routes or anything, but like you look at Derrick Henry, he can't track the football at all. He has complete stone hands. Like you can't even. He had a bunch of success on screens, but he also dropped a bunch of screens. Like he has stone hands. Javonte doesn't quite have that. So I'm really high on Javonte. I know my next guy was Aiyuk, and Aiyuk we can go over pretty quickly. Like someone needs to sit me down and like explain to me why Aiyuk is like wide receiver 30 right now on a lot of the websites. Like I almost think that has to be a mistake, right?
I guess outplayed.
Like what could the concern be?
The concern, I think, would be that, like, they give the ball to Kittle, and they give the ball to Debo, and they give the ball to
Did that not exist last year?
And you have Lance, and if Lance is really good, then they're running the ball with him. And, like, But you're right, that did exist. Those situations did, a lot of those with McCaffrey being there, and Debo and Kittle, those did exist last year.
Yeah, I get that there's a lot of mouths to feed, but damn, like Aiyuk was wide receiver 15 last year, at least in our sleeper league. And now he's wide receiver 30. And like Brock Purdy, they're probably going to upgrade at quarter. Like I know that all the Lance hype is dead this year compared to where it was last year, but it should probably be in about the same place. And either Purdy progresses or Lance is better than Purdy. Either way, they should have better quarterback play than they got last year. Like Aiyuk just seems really crazy low to me, and he's a great route runner. He got a large catch radius. He outperformed Debo last season. He's
Debo
great
was
after
also
the catch.
hurt. Debo missed some time.
He was hurt last year. He was hurt last year. That's true. But I don't know. That just seems really low for Aiyuk, and I get that there's a lot of mouths to feed, but I think they can all be fantasy relevant because I think San Francisco is going to have a really, really good offense.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather have
maybe the concern would be how good will he be on a week-to-week basis? Just like consistently.
Yeah, some weeks are going to be Kittle weeks, some weeks, yeah.
That would be my main concern, is because there's so many mouths. It's like at the end of the year, yeah, he might be wide receiver 14, 15, and he might have 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. But
yeah,
that might you might get 2 touchdowns in one game, and you might go 4 games with none. So that would be the one thing that might stand out to me.
Yeah, that I could see that, but I would take him at the list I'm looking at. I would take him over Michael Pittman catching passes from Richardson. I think I'd take him over Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, who are going to be competing for.
Is he behind targets. Evans and Godwin?
Oh yeah, he's way behind. Godwin.
Godwin's. What? What are we talking about?
I think I'd rather have him even than maybe Judy for the reasons that I'm talking about. I know that some people are really high on a Judy breakout, but it's like, I just don't think this is going to be a very pass-heavy offense, to be completely honest. And they still have Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick and Marvin Mims.
Yeah, Tim Patrick was hurt last year. Yeah, you get Tim Patrick back.
I get that Judy closed the year strong last season. I just think that nothing last season is going to matter. Like, I think everything is going to change in that offense. So I don't know. There's just a handful of names I think I'd rather have Aiyuk. But anyway, I cheated and said 2 guys, so I'll shut up now.
I'm not a huge fan of him.
Aiyuk.
He's like the 4th guy on that offense now. Here, okay. Debo Samuel out after week 6. First 6 weeks, Aiyuk ranked 31st in points per game among receivers. And now McCaffrey's there too. I just think it's too many guys. And I don't think they're going to have super, super elite quarterback play.
Yeah.
You got to fade somebody on that offense, I think.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, maybe. I still rather have him than the guy
tight end 2 or something. He was up there.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is just the film nerd in me seeing like wide receiver him at 30 and being like, that just seems low for him. Because I really like it. I think that he's super well rounded, and I think
Great player.
He could be poised to break out with the route running, and he's getting into his athletic prime. A lot of these receivers, they break out around age 26, and he's getting into that range. So like, could he surpass a guy like Kittle? Could he surpass even a guy like Debo, or at least stay ahead of him? I still think that it's possible, but it is a lot of mouths to feed. I like him though. I still do. I like him more than some of the guys above him. I'm not saying you have to take him in the top 10 in terms of receivers, or
maybe
even
if you get into that range.
Year.
Maybe if you get into that range, it's like, yeah, maybe you take him over like a Hollywood Brown or a Michael Pittman or a Godwin, but like, I'm probably not going to take him higher.
Yeah, I just think, he's gotten better each year. The production is on a line upward. I think he's an ascending player. He's hitting his prime now. Like, I get that there's a lot of mouths to feed, but I just think Aiyuk is one of those guys. And I think everyone is like, well, Debo's a superstar and McCaffrey's a superstar and Kittle's a superstar. Aiyuk's not a superstar, so he's the guy to fade. But it's like, Aiyuk's really the only player who's probably ascending of those groups. And I think it's very possible that he is on an upward trajectory, whereas everyone else might be the people to fade. I don't know, man, but that's a pretty ballsy bet. It is. Yeah. It's a really ballsy bet. So
it is. But
I just said two guys. I talked out of turn.
Matt, you have the next guy here. Another running back. You have Breece Hall.
Breece Hall. He's probably going to be pretty good, guys. He's got real running back one area upside, and he's getting drafted at like 11. I don't know. I'm kind of a fan of the whole like hero back stuff. It's like where you do, instead of doing zero RB, you take one at the top and then you go receiver, and then you kind of gamble. And you take a bunch of those like zero running back guys.
Yeah, I think I lean more to that philosophy.
I don't know what the name of it is. That's my philosophy. That's what I like to do, right? But Hall his like ADP is starting to get to the point where you could go, like, to me, he was showing to be like the total hero back. Like, he is going to take like all the work there. I know they have Rodgers, but they're still running the ball. And, he can do that, the whole thing. And you could like go potentially receiver, and Hall has a fighting chance to be there in the third. And even in a 12 team, it's like, yeah, his ADP right now, 25 overall. That would put him at pick 1 or 3-1. I don't know, dude. Like, I just
do like that,
dude. Like, to me, that sounds so strong. I think Hall has so much upside. Like, I know he messed up his knee, so you're rolling the dice there, but the workload that they were giving him was A1. And there's just not that many backs that ever see that. There's just not many teams that want to do that. And I know maybe your logic could be like, oh, well, now they have real quarterbacks. They're going to throw it more. But dude, I saw Joe Flacco get 50 passing attempts first off. They didn't care, man. They had to throw. And I think being on a good offense, I promise you, that will be a good thing. But you want to be on a good offense.
Yeah.
You would prefer that. So I'm a fan of Hall. I just think the talent's there. We've seen him do it before. The ADP is really starting to creep down there for him. He's that sort of age. Actually, the Jets were 7th in passing attempts last year. Mm-hmm. And so they already threw it a lot, and
he's a great receiver. Like,
and he's a great receiver too. It's like he's got so much going for him. I think he's going to be on the field a ton on a good offense, and they want to give him the ball, and you can get him in the 3rd round in 12-team leagues. I feel
kind of this. Yeah, I agree. I feel like there's a pretty strong group of 3 at 26, 27, and 33, and that group is Breece, Najee Harris, and Travis Etienne. Like, that might be the group that you want to pick your running backs out of instead of spending like the 1 overall on Austin Ekeler, or something like that.
Ekeler wasn't he RB2 last year? I mean,
He's not going to be. If we want to talk someone where I'm lower on, it's Austin Ekeler. Like, there's going to be so many more weapons with, or maybe not so many more, but last year, Keenan and Williams missed so much time, and he was just demanding a ridiculous amount of targets in those games. It was an offense that encouraged checkdowns anyway. This year, I think there's going to be way more mouths to feed, and I think they're going to be pushing it down the field more. And like, there's going to be like, hey, maybe let's not check it down so much. If one quick way to make this offense better is like, don't throw it behind the line of scrimmage. And if you're an offensive coordinator trying to make yourself look good, like that would be my first plan of attack. So I don't think that Ekeler is going to be quite the target sponge that he was before.
30 last year. Want to hear our Chargers fun fact passing offense? Josh Palmer had over 100 targets last year.
Did he actually? Wow.
I believe he had. I made that up in a dream, man. But I believe he had like 107 or something. 107.
Yeah, I'm doing my Chargers record prediction on TikTok next. So I found myself watching a Chargers game last night. They get into the red zone. It's like, what else are you going to do, man? Like, they got Gerald Everett and Trey McKitty and
it's no
tiny
one,
receivers on the outside. Like, they were force feeding Ekeler as soon as they got like within the 10-yard line. And like this year, I just don't think they're going to quite have to do that. So that's a little bonus take for you. Is like, and I guess in support of not only Hall but Etienne and Najee and just kind of running backs in that range. Like, that's probably more where I'd like to draft any of them than Jonathan Taylor or maybe even a Henry really early, or Saquon.
I will say that the year before they gave Ekeler the ball in the red zone. I still think Eckler's a good fantasy player, but there's definitely like a lot of risk of fall off. He's not going to get 130 targets, I wouldn't think, again next year. He's getting up there in age. There's definitely some red flags there for a guy whose ADP is like 3, like overall.
Mm-hmm. It's the same deal with
a receiver.
Yeah, it's the same deal with Lawrence, Matt. Like with Hall and with Etienne as well, and Najee, who I also really like. I think that there's so much upside in them ending higher than that. Whereas with Ekeler at number 1, it's not like he is, to me, so much better than Hall, or his outlook is so much more rosy that there needs to be a full round of difference between the two. So yeah, I really like that Hall and that trio of running backs. I don't think I'd be gutsy enough to wait till the early third. I think I like them in the second round. But yeah, I agree. He was a total superstar last year. Swing for the fences, I think. I mean, the ACL is a little scary, definitely. But
guys have been coming back from ACLs better and better, though.
Yeah,
I think so. I'm trying to think of like running back examples, torn ACLs and returns recently.
Achilles are the ones that really scare me.
What was Nick Chubb's injury? What was Chubb's injury? Was that
Chubb like really Chubb is like a special case. He really messed himself up at Georgia like bad.
Yeah, because he should have been a really high draft pick. And
at the top of the draft, they were talking about Cleveland potentially taking him in the top 5, and they took Ward instead. It was a shocking fall down to the second round, and his medicals were really bad. And he's still, obviously Nick Chubb. So I don't know. He's someone who came back from an injury like that. Yeah, AP did it,
and like Breece Hall is talented enough to like be one of those like special guys.
It sounds like he's ahead of schedule, too. I've heard some pretty good things from Saleh and that he's recovering really well. Stories that I haven't heard about Javonte Williams. I have not heard stories. I haven't heard anything about
I want to see Javonte Williams run so bad.
It was such a bad fit for him I know the other reason people are low on him is that he was healthy for the first couple weeks last year and he was kind of disappointing, but I just think it was not the correct offense for him. Like the Rodgers Packers like zone run type of thing that Hackett brought over. I think Peyton is going to bring a much better offense over, and I think the knowledge that Russ is bad is going to help him so much, because Hackett had to design an offense under the assumption that Russ was really good. I mean, they just traded and all these picks for him and gave him a huge contract. Like, you're not going to be like, let's take as much off of his plate as we can.
Yeah.
If you're Sean Payton, you're blessed with the knowledge that like, hey, our quarterback was looking at things that were open and not throwing it at all. So it's like we can't put the ball in his hands, and that'll make the offense. He has such a better chance to look good because he can actually design a good offense whereas Hackett like straight up could not. Like there was no way Hackett could design the proper offense for Russ's skill set. So both Hall and Javonte coming off injuries, I think are good value.
Yeah. Theo, you have the next pick here also.
Oh my God. I'll keep it brief.
All right. Jelani Woods.
Well, they have Steichen as their offensive coordinator. I just want to take you through the coaching tree here. Okay. What has happened between the Eagles and the Colts and just everything that's gone on? So it all starts with Andy Reid, right? Mm-hmm. Andy Reid got fired from the Eagles long ago in 2012. The Eagles hired Chip Kelly. He sucks. Who do they replace Chip Kelly with? An Andy Reid disciple, Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson is great. They hire his offensive coordinator, Frank Reich, in Indianapolis. Then Doug Peterson is fired from Philly. Philly then turns around and hires a Frank Reich offensive coordinator in Sirianni. Then the Colts fire Frank Reich, and they pick up a Sirianni offensive coordinator in Steichen. So this tree has just been like passed around basically between the Colts and every other, like there's been this cycle. But the thing that's in common with all of these guys, whether it be Doug Peterson or Andy Reid or Sirianni or whoever it is, even John Harbaugh, who is also part of this tree, but he's separate. Great tight end production, whether that be Dallas Goedert last year, Evan Ingram's career renaissance, Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, when Peterson was in Philadelphia. Before that, Brent Selleck was a good player. Eric Ebron had 14 Cincinnati touchdowns. Legend. Yeah, he was a Cincinnati. I thought about you when I was looking this up when I saw that he was from Cincinnati, Matt. I was like, I know I'm going to get that. But Brent Selleck was somebody that had gotten production. Eric Ebron came into Frank Reich's system in Philadelphia or in Indianapolis and had like 13 or 14 touchdowns, if you remember that. Jack Doyle made a Pro Bowl. Tight ends in this coaching tree are productive almost all the time. Woods had some big performances last year. He didn't necessarily break out, but he's very talented. He's super athletic. He's good after the catch. He has a huge catch radius, and tight ends are just always seem to be important within this coaching tree and in these systems. And I don't know if this is true or not, or if there's any data to back this up, but I always feel like when it comes to rookie quarterbacks, I'd rather have the tight end than the wide receiver. I feel like wide receivers catching passes from rookie quarterbacks is never a safe bet, whereas tight ends are always all right. And that is just kind of a gut feeling and something I think I've noticed over the couple of years. I don't know if the data backs that up, but I like Jelani Woods as a late tight end sleeper. I think that he could be kind of a breakout if you're in a really deep league. And that's all I'll say.
I don't hate it. I think it's a little tough this year because of the rookie quarterback. But unlike in like dynasty leagues, he's a guy.
Yeah, this might be more for like a serious fantasy league. But I just want to point out that wherever this coaching tree has been, like Pro Bowl tight ends have followed and fantasy tight ends have followed.
This would be a great TikTok if you made this and you're like, what if I told you tight end 32 last year, who only is going to improve as the tight end 34 in ADP this year? Folks, it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't add up.
Was he the tight end 32 last year?
He was.
Tight end 34
those are the real
year?
numbers.
It's okay. So people think that he is going to regress, even though tight ends usually take a while to develop, and he flashed. And I mean, it's the same coaching tree, so this point might just be moot. But
maybe what we need to start projecting. We need to start projecting Tommy Trimble breakout season.
I project that Tommy Trimble will not break out.
I have not done much research in the Tommy Tremble department, to be completely honest. But I don't know. I look at all these tight ends out here, and I see. Yeah, I mean, he's gonna be better. He's a safer bet than Logan Thomas. Okay, so let's all be serious. If you want another tight end, I said that I would stop, but I just can't help my health. Take CJ Uzoma. He got the Aaron Rodgers stamp. Okay, he likes Taylor Swift like Rodgers does. He got the Rodgers Kentucky Derby invite, and he was there with like Cobb and Devontae Adams and stuff, and David Bakhtiari. Uzoma was the only Jet there. So let it be known.
Even over Rodgers, Sauce wasn't there?
I don't think Sauce or Garrett Wilson was there or anything. He just hit it off with CJ Uzoma. And if you want to be Sauce. Fantasy relevant, be Aaron Rodgers' friend. So watch out for CJ Uzoma this year because Rodgers loves the guy.
All right. Well, we have
I have no idea where CJ Uzoma is in fantasy.
Neither do I.
Probably not even like registering on the.
Bengals fans would probably like that take. He was pretty good for them.
He's been productive before. Yes. I see Jason Witten on this list, and I don't see CJ Uzoma. Am I missing something?
I don't think you are missing something. I'm confused as well.
Well, it doesn't matter. He's not my pick, and I just named two guys again.
All right. Well, my next guy up, I had to bring in a Cleveland Brown at some point, and this is Amari Cooper, who was a top 10 fantasy wide receiver last year and is barely getting drafted in the top 20 right now this year. In an Matt, you brought up an offense that's only going to improve. There is no feasible way that Deshaun Watson is as bad as he was at the end of last year. And I know that Cooper had success with like Brissett, but the offense overall has a much higher ceiling than it does if Watson is even marginally an improvement over that level, because we already know what he can create out of structure, and he was showing some flashes. It was just like it looked like he forgot how to throw a football, and the system wasn't really that great. But a full offseason to develop, or not even develop, just to like get your reins back in, knock the rust off, get a good playbook system in place. I mean, there's no reason why Cooper should be falling, I think, this far.
Yeah, I can get on board with Amari Cooper. He had a really great season last year, perhaps his best. And
that's what he had one of his best years.
You know, Watson, they only averaged like a couple points a game when he returned last year, but he, if I'm not mistaken, he was banned from even practicing with the team.
Right, he wasn't allowed to practice, and he wasn't allowed to see the playbook.
So yeah, he came in week 12. He came like in
literally
week
blind,
12 completely cold, and with Watson, Amari Cooper was still on pace for, an 1,000-yard season or whatever. And I would imagine, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns isn't like some monster fantasy season. And I believe that's what he was on pace for week 13 on. So that's not great, but he did have a fantastic season last year overall. And yeah, you are looking at someone who could be a pretty clear wide receiver one in what could be a pretty great passing attack. So yeah, he's a boring pick, but certainly someone that I could get on board with potentially,
People just hate Amari Cooper, right? I feel like it's weird. I feel like Amari Cooper's boring. But he didn't used to be. He didn't used to be.
Yes, he did used to be boring. He's always been boring. Here's Amari Cooper: 1,070 yards, 1,153, 680, 1,005, 1,189, 1,114, 865, 1,160. He's always 1,100 something.
He needs more yards.
And then it's six touchdowns, 5, 7, 7, 8, 5, 8, 9. So he's consistently 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns. Like,
he's good.
He is just, that's pretty good. It's just like, at this point, there are guys who could do more than that, and he's almost 30 and never has. So that's why he's boring. But I mean, he's pretty consistent, like you pick him and you know that you're getting a pretty good player. So yeah, I don't hate it. And, maybe he is set up to have he was really good last year, and he could be set to have a bigger year last year than he did this year. But I could see it. He's not one of my guys, but could he outperform DK Metcalf? Maybe. He's in about the right spot to me, I guess. I don't know. I don't really think he's over.
I think he's a little undervalued, but I don't know if he's a
yeah. I mean, if he's there at pick 40, oh, I mean, if he's there at pick 30, I'm probably taking him.
Yeah, he should be very controversial. Like, he's good value there. I agree with you, Blade.
Yeah.
I don't see how it could be a disaster. Like,
right. You're getting a good player if you take him. So it seems safe enough. Matt, you have the last one before our collective last one. Theo, I'm actually not sure if you're on board with our last guy.
Oh, you did a collective one without me?
Well, Matt and I had the same guy on accident.
The same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met up and
but Matt, you have the Eagles running backs.
I just think that, and this one's kind of cheating because it's not really one guy. The Eagles running game kicks ass, and
it does.
You know how like Sanders got super undervalued because people got sick of him, and then he like kind of popped off. I kind of think Swift is in a similar position. At running back 25, there's a whole lot of upside. Now, I say Eagles running backs because I like Penny too, but I'll be real with you. I just have no faith in him staying healthy.
I have nothing to say to that, man. He's started 11 games in his career, and he's a 27-year-old running back.
But I think Swift, it could be, he's behind now the best offensive line, and he's one of those two dudes I think has to get a fair amount of touches. And if it's not Swift, it's going to be Penny. If you double up on them and just kind of see how things play out, you could find a lot of success because that's going to still be a very, very good offense. There's a lot of touchdown upside. I guess maybe I'd be worried that Swift couldn't be used as a receiver as much because of Hurts and whatnot, but that's just something I'm keeping an eye on. There's some sort of like vague offenses as far as running backs go, like Kamara and Jamaal Williams is one of them with Miller there. It's like that one. It's like I don't trust the offensive line, and how good is their offense exactly going to be, and how are they going to split that up? Similar ADP is kind of Swift and Penny overall. It's like a similar investment. And I think the upside is just way higher on that. So maybe if you're in a zero running back, I guess Swift is a little high, but keep an eye out for it. I think one of those guys is really going to pop off, and we'll see how things start to shake out as we get into the season. But I'm just interested in it. They're a great rushing offense. Someone's going to get the ball.
Yeah.
And Swift, he has his issues with vision, absolutely, and I've harped on it a billion times, and everyone's sick of me doing it by now. But, if people can always get better, it's something that hypothetically he can improve at, and if the offensive line is blasting open huge holes like that anyone could see, maybe he can do it and get out of the doghouse. And maybe there's just something stylistically that the Lions really cared about that the Eagles don't care so much about, and that's why they traded for him. So yeah, I can get on board with Swift. I think that where he is at now is way more acceptable than where he was at last year when he was getting drafted as like running back 8, and I couldn't believe it. Like, this seems more right. And of course, I am always on board for Rashad Penny hype because
Penny's good, man.
He picks out 10 yards every time he carries the ball, but
I am all for it. But bro, let's get him on the field first.
Let's get him on the field. Look. Last year's, I can't even deny it anymore. I love Rashad Penny. I think that he is obviously incredible. He's the total package: home run speed, decisiveness, vision. He's willing to hit the hole. He's a big back. He's had nothing but positive results. It's just, from his rookie year, he was super efficient. It's just he cannot stay healthy. It has never happened once. So I'm not, no one's stupid for fading him. Okay. But I'll leave a light on. A light will always be on for Rashad Penny.
The door is always open for you.
And with Swift, it's like as bad as everything was with the Lions, it's like he was running back 16 as far as average points per game last year.
Yeah.
And now he's in arguably an even better offense, which is saying something considering how good the Lions was. But yeah, I just
arguably in a situation where he can get more carries because like Jamaal Williams was someone who was more reliable than Penny was at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think like with their current positioning, you'd have to figure that like none of them are going to eat, and somebody's eating. Somebody's feasting there. Maybe it'll just be Hurts. Who knows?
If there's a quarterback to take in the first round, I think it would be Hurts. That to me makes the most sense. But
I would take Allen of anyone in the first round, but Hurts is, I wouldn't take any of these quarterbacks.
I wouldn't take any of them either, but like if you wanted to go, well, here was my plan. My plan was, hope to God I get I like to go 12-1. I like to get the 12th pick and then circle back and get the first pick in the second round because I like to take Kelsey.
That's your plan.
But Kelsey's ADP is like 6th overall. Everyone's like on board now, so now
might be too.
It's kind of a weird year at the top for running backs, where there's a lot of uncertainty. There's not really someone hitting like the prime of their career that like everyone loves right now, like a Jonathan Taylor last year. Like Taylor's coming off a bad year, and Henry's getting up there, and it feels like it's just kind of a weird year for running backs at the top.
Yeah. So you're seeing a lot of like
Saquon, and like Saquon and Josh Jacobs. Like who knows if they'll even play next year? And there's no one that's really quite cemented themselves at that running back one spot. So you're going to see a bunch of Travis Kelce hype and a bunch of Justin Jefferson hype, which is not a bad. I don't necessarily disagree. Like if you take Kelce or Jefferson, they are monsters and will probably be just as good as any running back. So sure.
Well, the last guy here, Matt and I both had him. Theo, you tell us if you agree. Geno Smith, who we were talking earlier about, like, if you want to wait really long to get a quarterback, Geno Smith is booked at QB 15 right now, man. He was like the most accurate downfield passer in the NFL, and they added Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like, they were already a great passing offense, and they added the best receiver in this class, who adds another element to their already great receiving core.
Look, yeah, like I kind of get the logic with a lot of these quarterbacks maybe being a little bit lower because it's like now Watson is going to be like a real fantasy quarterback, and Lamar was hurt for half the year. But dude, like going from QB5 to QB 15 for no apparent reason other than it's Geno. It's like if it's me, I'm looking at this quarterback list and I'm saying, wow, there are if you're playing in a 12-team league, there are 4 guys outside of the top 12 who finished within the top 10 last year. Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Jared Goff. You can draft these guys when everyone's picking backups. I almost wonder if that's just the move this season. I understand like a top quarterback can really be a game changer and whatnot, but some of these dudes I'd rather just not take the risk on. Like, I love Justin Fields, but it's a lot of projection, a lot of scratching your heads, and I think he's really injury prone. Lamar hasn't played a full season in the last 2 years. We've seen Allen be banged up, or Hurts didn't play the last few games, and
it's not even so much fading the quarterbacks. I think it's just like if there are skill position players you really like take those guys, and you can still get someone at quarterback because there's nothing fake about what Geno did last year, in my opinion.
Right,
and that's probably a lot of what and maybe I don't think that too many of these guys are going to get hurt, really. Outside of I do have my concerns about Fields running himself into contact, but Lamar and Hurts, I'm sure will be fine. I just think that's a lot of it is like, oh, what he did was like fake. or like what Goff did was fake.
Like
but the thing is that you could just
a one-hit wonder or something like that.
You could just take two of these guys. Right. One of them's going to be, you'll be right about one of them probably. I mean, is Kirk Cousins really like a fraud at this point? I don't know. He's probably going to get a good number.
I thought Kirk Cousins played his best season last year. I thought he was really good.
and it's like, or like Daniel Jones. I don't think Daniel Jones is the greatest QB ever, but I don't really see any reason why he wouldn't do what he did last year. And I think people underestimate, his rushing upside.
Yeah. And with Geno, like, I think with Geno specifically, right. I think people think like, oh, could be a flash in the pan, a 1-year wonder. I'm just not really concerned about that with Geno Smith, just on the nature of how he played. It wasn't like when I see quarterbacks that I think could be 1-year wonders where I get concerned is like these fake offenses, play action guys. Like the Baker is probably the best example of someone that I was really low on, even though like statistically he had a great season. Geno, I mean, he was dropping back. He was sustaining a very high volume passing attack, hitting throws deep down the field. I mean, he probably his best throws compilation stacks up with anybody in the leagues last year. I mean, he was good. I mean, Herbert, Mahomes, like it doesn't matter. Like Gebo's high end throws, he was the most accurate guy down the field. I think he was the most accurate quarterback overall in terms of completion percentage, and he wasn't. He wasn't a check down artist either. He was down the field. He probably had the best throw the whole year versus the Saints. Oh my God. And I just don't think that's the kind of thing that you can fake. And I think that the Seahawks kind of knew he had it in him, and that's why they traded Russ and were willing to go with him at all. And he's getting a better receiving core than he even had last year. And he was quarterback 5 last year. And like, yeah, maybe the quarterback situation is a little bit better overall across the league than it was last year. It was pretty bleak across the league last year. But yeah, I mean, if there's a bunch of skill position players that you like and you think could break out, take them. And then you can get someone like Geno later. I think that's a perfectly acceptable way to build a team. And it seems like that's kind of the usual fantasy, like expert strategy is like,
it just feels very strong this year is all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I agree. I think that Geno's a perfectly acceptable pick. I don't see much downside with him with where he's getting drafted at all. And if you want to build your team out that way, and if that's your strategy going into the draft, I think that that's a good strategy. So I agree. It can be a stay hot consensus. I think that you guys
stay hot consensus sleeper fantasy pick, Geno Smith. Won't be any more after this episode drops. His ADP shoots up to 10 and then 8.
Do you think how much do you think I personally have affected DeAndre Swift's ADP?
Well,
do you think it's one spot? Do you think at all? Or do you think if I didn't exist, it would be the exact same?
I think you don't.
I think I'm delusional. I'm delusional, and I think that I single-handedly have ruined his legacy a little bit.
And you're proud of that.
I don't know. I mean, I was right last year. So
I think there's a lot of people, I think there's some pretty big fantasy football podcasts that have a lot of sway in that stuff.
I think so too. But they all like Swift.
Yeah, you didn't. So maybe them being wrong and you being, it's a combination of them being wrong, you being right, that threw this all, that threw him.
Do you guys
down.
ever think that about a player that you're like, my agendas have changed public perception overall on these guys? Have you ever thought that, or is...
No, there's a few times where I've been like, I feel like I've been early to something, but I don't know if I'm like changing public perception.
I was early to Jalen Hurts, but I didn't.
You're very early to Jalen Hurts,
but no one was like buying in at that point.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to look at it. I think about that. I'm like, what? It's a LeBron tweet up late at night thinking, what is my? It's instead of that, it's like. How has Theo Ash NFL affected fantasy rankings? Probably not much is the conclusion that I usually reach. But
it's okay.
Sometimes I think
you're welcome to feed your own delusions. I think that's healthy sometimes. But We do have one mailbag question from our Twitter to wrap things up here. From Landon, he asks, in 30 years, what current NFL jersey will be the best throwback? And I assume he's at, because we had the...
I was thinking about that today because I was going to do a big jersey ranking on TikTok.
Ooh. That is a good question.
That is a good question.
I'm so prepared for this. I was looking at all the jerseys. My answer is, let's see, now that I was looking at it, now I need to figure it out.
I think it's just kind of going to be what the classics are, something that looks very modern at the moment and what people really like. I think that the Navy Chargers one is just so dope and it looks so modern that in 30 years it's going to look like it's from this era. And it's sick. That's what I'm going with. That's my favorite jersey in the NFL.
I think the Vikings jerseys currently, too, are a really good modern take. The best one, though, is the Seahawks. The current, because I don't think this is the look they'll have forever. When they released their new uniforms back in the day, they were completely different than anything else that was out. And I think they've aged pretty well with the neon highlights. It was just very Nike. It was just very, it was...
Those Oregon teams, man.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It was different. There's a lot of details on it. If you look at the leg striping, they've got kind of this V shape going down them, and they've got the checkered 7 and the neon highlights and everything. It's a very modern looking jersey. This would not have been released in the 90s, and it's iconic. It's been going on for a long time. But I don't think it's a timeless classic either. And I think someday they could move in a different direction. They're not quite like the Steelers or the Packers, who I think will never change. The Chiefs, I don't think they'll ever change. I do think one day that the Seahawks will change jerseys, and the ones they're currently wearing will be looked back on fondly. So that's my answer, is the Seahawks home uniforms.
It's not a bad one. I love the Seahawks alternates this year.
They're really beautiful.
Sick. The Browns ones are great too. The Browns all white. Better than the Bengals all white, in my opinion.
Another could potentially be, I think the Chargers is a fantastic answer as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I wonder if the Eagles ever go through a change in their color again, and the midnight green coming back the same way that the Kelly green. Like, people are excited about that. I wonder if that could happen.
That's very possible. Yeah. 'Cause I like their jerseys now.
This is my hot take. Their actual jerseys, I do not like. They have sick helmets, though.
You don't like their current uniforms?
I think their current, it ranks very, I'm going to make my whole ranking because I was bored today. But the Eagles, okay. I like, if you look at their actual jerseys, like not the helmet, the color is cool, but like the actual jerseys,
okay,
there's nothing. There's not.
Maybe I haven't paid that close attention to it. Okay,
there. They've got dope helmets though.
I think there's a good color green.
I think so too. There's so much. That's all you need.
That's enough. I hate to say
Matt's biased. Green's your favorite color, isn't it, Matt?
Green is my favorite color too, but I think this is why the jerseys get overrated, is because I think there's stuff on it. They coast off the color, because you look at the look at the shoulder pads. It's just like the Eagle logo. It looks dumb. The Eagle
looks sweet.
Hey, you want to talk about a team that's not coasting off color? The Browns.
The Browns have an elite jersey, and they make brown look good for some reason, and they're like the only team that really does that in the NFL.
The only team that uses that color.
Their jerseys used to suck. I wonder if those like old Browns get-ups from like when they drafted Baker, when that just said like Cleveland.
The jerseys when they
will those ever be looked
with,
up fondly?
The like Dante Whitner. Think about that, like when they had Corey Coleman and they had like just changed their jerseys. Those were terrible. Mm-hmm. Those were so bad.
I think.
I also think one that will come back as a throwback.
What?
I like Tampa's jerseys.
No, you're crazy. The new ones, like the creamsicle ones, those are sweet. Their current ones?
Yeah, the creamsicle
No,
ones
like
are
just
great.
their straight up normal current jerseys. I really like them.
So what
No.
does that have that the Eagles does not?
I don't know why I like for
Yeah, neither do I, man.
one reason that it could be I like the alternate logo on the shoulder pad of the Bucks. I think it's way more subtle. I think it's way more interesting than just the big ass eagle head that is on the Eagles
What
logo.
is wrong with the Eagle logo is better.
It's an eyesore. No, it's not.
No, it's
then
not.
the big pirate
No,
ship.
it's not.
The pirate ship clears that big.
So what I'm hearing, Theo
Eagles
just
logo.
prefers pirates over birds, even though he's an
And-
avid bird watcher.
I think the shade of gray, the powder gray or pewter gray, however you say it, I really think it makes the red pop, and I think it's an unique color and a good alternative to black.
Their old jerseys used to be so much better. People need to bring back silver pants. Silver.
I disagree. Silver's and gray.
No, silver and
Panthers
gray
need
are
to
not
get
the
rid of-
same. Silver and gray are not the same. Let's get that.
They're not the same, but
First
I
off, you
don't
don't know
like
color.
either.
What
of
do you
them.
mean?
So
There's no way you guys are hyping up silver to me right
The
now.
Cowboys, bro. The Cowboys would kill that.
the old Cowboys with like
Yes.
the green silver they had on the pants. That was how it's supposed to be.
This is
outta here with the
NFL.
silver.
You don't like that. You don't like
The only, good
NFL football.
the only good silver I see in the league is the Raiders. They're the only team that pulls off the silver.
That's silver and black, man. It's lethal.
The silver needs to get out of the Panthers uniforms because then the blue would pop way more.
The Panthers weren't even wearing silver all that much this year. I don't think they did. I think
That's
it was all
good.
like the
They
black
should
and the
stop.
white. You hate the Panthers jerseys no matter what, even though they look.
Wait,
Wait, you
Cool.
don't like
New
the
ones are
Panthers
cool.
jerseys?
What? They need to get rid of the silver.
No, you
Their
said this
new
to
ones
me.
are cool. I said I think they're okay. They're mid, I think. They're like probably
You said
even
this was
below
bad
average,
to
I
me.
would say.
I was pissed. I
I
don't like
think
the
they gotta
Texans
get rid of
jerseys
the-
that much.
I don't either. But the Panthers, they have my permission to go all black. Okay. There's a lot of teams that try this, and it was a trend. Like every college football team had all black jerseys, like the entire 2010s. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of black helmets. I'm sick of black jerseys. The Panthers have my permission. They look all good in all black, and like Black Panther. That's like what color a panther is. They got to get rid of silver and just make like black, blue, and white, and really get sleek.
Can't
The
believe
silver needs to
I'm
go.
never gonna see Matt Corral play.
Did
in
you guys
all
like
black.
those
This is-
new those new Colts jerseys? I like them. I like the black helmet.
I don't think
like
the
the
problem is the helmet. I think the problem is like the rest of the uniform. I like the black helmet. I don't like how the stripes, the like white on the jersey, I think contrasts too much.
I think that's what makes it cool.
Maybe
I
it'll
just
look
think
good
when
on the
you-
field. Maybe it'll look good on the field. I'm just like, I look at this and I'm like, this doesn't speak.
That
It's
jersey
just like,
was so tough. That helmet is so tough.
I think they look good individually.
no way
I don't
you're
think they
hyping
look
up
good
the
together.
Fucking Colts alternates of all the Indiana Knights.
dude, yeah.
I think they look
That
good
wasn't like
individually. I
straight
just don't,
blue.
I
It
don't
was
think
kind
they
of
look
like
good together.
what's the word?
There was always like camo coloring on the blue.
That's dope.
Black
Everything's got to be, but then the Browns make a jersey where it's like all white and then like a stripe of color, and it's like, oh my god.
Well,
That's why
that's
every
good. You
jersey
need
in the
things that
NFL
really
looks the
pop.
same.
You need things to really pop, and the Browns did a good job because there's orange accents that really like. It looks sleek because it's all white. It's all uniform.
So all black. That's too easy. All white. Yes, please.
But
that makes no sense.
It's not all white. This is why I thought the Bengals all whites were overrated. There was nothing popping. There was no splash of color.
Well,
on the Bengals
they don't do
all
the splash
whites.
of color. It's the like slashes, the like claw marks. That's supposed to be their pop.
Yeah, you can't see that from the screen that you watch football on. You got to be like right. You got to be right next to me to make it look real, like the slash marks or whatever. Like little details like this. It has to look good from the macro. I don't know. The Colts Indiana Night ones, like of all the alternates that got released,
I like
maybe they're
almost all the
acceptable, but-
alternates. I just also like the Colts ones.
I don't think it's terrible to like them. I don't think it's terrible to hate them.
I think I'm very brave for liking them as well.
You are very
all
brave,
the hate
Matt.
on the timeline. And I said, they're not bad, man. I wish there was more black on the jersey. I wish it was more, like they had played more into it, if anything.
Black pants would make it cooler, I think.
There's still time. They can still change it.
Yeah, there's still time. I do like the C with the Indiana in the middle.
That's cool.
I do like that.
Yes, it is cool.
But anyway, check my TikTok for full home jersey rankings, number 32 through 1. I'll probably post that right after this.
I think everyone should go and comment on Theo's TikTok and just tell him that he's wrong. Just give no explanation. Just like, I disagree.
Well, it's a jersey, so it's kind of tough to give like a good explanation on like why one is good and why one is bad. But
yeah, everyone go disagree on purpose.
But I will say Bills number 1. Bills home uniforms, best jersey in the league. I'll say that is my take. They're so clean and they have the best logo. It's just like perfect. No notes.
Interesting.
I can't believe you called the Eagles color merchants.
They were.
That's 90% of it, man.
It is, but
and it's your favorite color too. That's what's crazy.
Here are the ingredients for a good jersey. You need a bold color scheme. I don't want to see navy blue and red. Sorry, Texans. Sorry, Patriots. Seen it a million times before. I want something that really pops. You need good shoulder stripes. This makes or break a uniform. The stripes on the shoulder. I hate just like the primary logo on the helmet and then just a big ass logo on the shoulder as well. I want like some good striping. I want the trim around the collar to look good. I want the font of the numbers to be like good. I want like things that kind of pop. Shoulder striping, trim, font. These do that, and good and bright colors. This is what I like. This is why and a good logo. The Eagles logo does not look good to me.
I love the Eagles logo.
Really?
Yes.
The old one is way better.
Both of them are sick.
Yeah.
I like the Colts logo with the horseshoe. I think the Bills is perfect. Like,
the Bills
I don't
have
know.
a good logo.
I think the Lions have a great logo.
The best logo was the Ravens, like old one.
What was the Ravens old one?
I've always messed with the Ravens and their retro stuff and their colors, and I've always thought
the Ravens are up there too.
They're looking team.
They're up there in they're Edgar Allan Poe core, and that's just a sick thing to be.
Edgar Allan Poe.
They look like a bunch of gargoyles.
But if Theo Ash had his way, this would be Baltimore Football Club. No one would have any fun.
The Ravens are okay. The Ravens get a pass. They also have a logo on the side of their thing, which I should be against. But again, they made a good decision. They went with the alternate, and that's very important. Is like something different, something exciting, not just the same Baltimore logo that's on the helmet.
Maybe. I don't know. I'll have to see your full rankings.
Everyone will have to see, but I'm making them now.
Well, this has been a longer episode, but we appreciate you all tuning in. This is all we have for today. We'll get back to the divisional rankings with the next episode. But until then, thank you all so much for tuning in. And as always, we here at Stay Hot will catch you on the flippity flop.